how are you going to tell somebody how to get over suicide of a
Yeah.
loved one, my husband, if you haven't actually been through it? How are you going to tell someone to get through a real panic attack unless you've done it? How are you going to tell someone how to go from losing all of your money and thinking you're going to go bankrupt to rebuilding your financial security unless you've done it?
Wow.
And I've done it. And how are you going to tell someone how to get through your house burning in a fire, being destroyed in a fire, unless you've done it? For me, I went through all of this. I wrote this beautiful book. I went on to coach people, but then I've been through so many tragedies in my life in the last 30 years, which is part of the reason I wanted to write this book. Life is hard, and people that you love die, and you get diagnosed with things, and your house is in a fire, and just when you think you got it all figured out, Zoe, you don't. And so you need these skills that I teach in the new book because life's tough and shit happens. Can I cuss on this show?
Of course you
Great.
can. Today, we're sitting down with best-selling author of 4 books, including one of my favorites, the international bestseller From Panic to Power, and the creator of a world-renowned attacking anxiety and depression program used by universities, hospitals, and individuals around the world. And she has spent several decades helping people overcome anxiety and reclaim their lives. But behind all of that is a much deeper story. It's the story of Lucinda Bassett. It is such a pleasure to
It
be
is.
here with you.
No, the pleasure's all mine. I mean, truly, I haven't known you long, but in the short time that I've known you, you've been such a blessing in my life.
You've been a blessing in my life. I'm really grateful. I'm really a fan of yours. You've helped millions of people with your book, Panic to Power. I am someone who suffered quite deeply with both panic, anxiety, and depression at different times in my life. So your book helped me a lot. So thank you for coming. It's a dream of mine to have you sitting here. For those that don't know, what is anxiety and depression? What is it?
So anxiety is a painful uneasiness of mind. The way to describe it, and it's so funny because I wrote the book From Panic to Power 30 years ago, and very few people knew what it was. And now in 2026, everyone knows what it is. And it's a buzzword, and you hear it on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. And anxiety is just this creepy, crawly feeling that you get where you really feel like you're going to lose control or do something stupid. You get really, really uncomfortable, whether it's on a turbulent flight or going out on a first date or going in for a mammogram or getting some bad news or sitting at home watching a scary television show or waking up at 3 a.m. worrying that you're dying of a heart attack or maybe I'm all alone. Who would know if I died right now? Or anxiety can be brought on by just obsessive, scary thoughts about your health, about money, about your relationship, about your children. And when you get anxious, you send a signal from your brain to your body that something's wrong. Oh my God. And it usually starts with, what if? What if I'm dying? What if I'm losing my mind? What if I'm sick? What if I have a brain tumor? What if I pass out? What if I say something stupid? What if I forget what I'm supposed to say? And then you release all these chemicals in your brain and your body, and your heart starts to race. Your hands can sweat. You can feel like you're going to pass out. You feel like you're going to die. Some people actually run to the emergency room thinking they're
I've
dying.
done it.
And some people cry. Some people actually do feel like they're going to faint. Some people feel like they're going to throw up. And usually it's triggered, which is my new favorite word in my new book, because it's triggered by something that triggers something from your past.
Okay.
So maybe when you were growing up, somebody told you you weren't enough, or maybe you had a fear of maybe your parents fought, or maybe someone that you know died, but it triggers something in you. And then it triggers all these chemical reactions in your body, and your body starts having symptoms. And so anxiety is emotional and it's symptomatic, and it feels so awful that when it builds up and it builds up, it can lead to what we call a panic attack,
Yes.
where you feel like your skin's crawling, you need to run, you hyperventilate. Sometimes you're just, I can't, I can't breathe. I'm having a heart attack. I need to go to the emergency room. And what's really horrible is when you're feeling that feeling on a plane, or when you're riding in someone else's car, or when you're, in the back of a bus on a field trip with your
Yeah.
children.
I mean,
Or
I think sometimes I've had panic attacks due that feeling of confinement. I can remember one on a plane. Um, I did actually go. I am one of those that went to the
the emergency
emergency
room.
ward. I remember I was living downtown in the American Hotel, and I think I'd been living on cans of Coke and
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. Let's just
Want to
let's be
clarify that,
yeah,
baby.
let's clarify that.
This is LA.
Coca-Cola, a little bit. We were broke at the time, and I had those horrible chest
Heart
pains, right?
palpitations.
That go, and I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. And this sweet guy drove me to the emergency ward. I used to wear big black eye makeup. I was crying, all the eye makeup. I remember they plugged me into everything, and then they suddenly went, no, it's a panic attack.
And then you go, oh my God, what does that mean? Am I going to die? Am I going to have a heart attack? Am I going to lose my mind and go crazy? What's a panic attack?
It's that feeling, isn't it? It's I think I went to the emergency probably 3 or 4
Oh,
times.
wow.
I was really convinced at different times, and I was under a lot of pressure. I was trying to break into music, I was very young, didn't know Hollywood very well. So it was kind of a perfect storm. But what I love about your book is that you offer so many amazing ways to get over this kind of panic, anxiety. It's really transformational panic to power. It's something that if people are suffering from it, they can really, really find absolute real help.
Thank you for that. And I think what I did back then, Zoe, that was so different is back then, you're not going to say when, but it was 30 years ago when I was, let's see, 30 years ago, yeah, I was in my 30s. I hate to say it, but, I'm not afraid to talk about my age, but in my 20s, actually. But back then, panic attack was viewed as, a mental challenge,
Mm.
not really a mental illness, but it was in the DSM, and it was, a psychological defect. It was something that needed to be treated. It was something like, oh, you've got to be on medication, you've got to go to a psychiatrist, go to the doctor. And the truth is,
They did put me on medication,
oh,
and I had an even worse reaction.
what did they put you on? You have to name the brand, but
I think it was
antidepressant,
called,
anti-anxiety medication,
yeah, anti-anxiety, and I had a
benzodiazepine.
boomerang effect and ended up in hospital
Ah,
because it triggered me and made me totally amped up. It was like I was on LSD. It
oh
was
my God.
crazy.
I think I could tell you what medication it was, but I'm not going to name it.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. You go to the doctor and they say, all right, this is typical anxiety disorder and panic disorder,
Hmm.
maybe even agoraphobia.
Hmm.
Agoraphobia is when you get to the point where you start avoiding things because of the anxious way that you feel. So maybe you had a panic attack driving, so you stopped driving. Maybe you had a panic attack going out to dinner, so you stopped going out to dinner. Maybe you had a panic attack in an elevator. Now you don't want to take elevators. So then you go in and then they say, oh, well, this is a disorder. This is an emotional, mental condition. You need to be medicated. Then they put you on medication, which can make you more anxious. Sometimes it's helpful depending on what it is. But what I did differently is I started to realize, because I started working with people with a doctor, Dr. Philip Fisher in Toledo, and I thought, my God, people with anxiety are highly creative. They're very intelligent. They're forward thinkers. They're very analytical. They want answers. They want answers now. And they have this vivid imagination. I mean, it goes from, oh my God, I could write a book, to I think I'm going crazy and I'm going to end up in a mental institution. And I said, if we could take all of that anxious energy that Zoe has, and somebody could say to Zoe, wow, Zoe, you are not only incredibly beautiful, but you are so special because of your anxiety. You're creative. You've got this magnetic energy. You're an analytical thinker. You overthink everything. You are very, very intellectual. You are so hypersensitive. You're beautiful, Zoe.
Oh, thank you.
Imagine if you could take all of that internal creative energy and put it outside of you where it belongs. You could be a great singer. You could be a great podcaster. You could write best-selling books. You'd be a wonderful partner and girlfriend. Be a wonderful mother. And if, God forbid, one of your kids grows up with anxiety because it's partially genetic, you could say, I know what that is. I had that. That makes you special.
I
Not
mean, that's wonderful, isn't it? That I was rereading that part in your book yesterday, the way you talk about transforming that energy rather than perfectionism, high standards,
right.
or I love that. I think that I am very, I have a lot
Wound
of
up.
energy. I have a lot of
You're
energy.
wound up.
So I do have to put it all into something creative.
Right.
Otherwise,
You'll internalize it.
I'll internalize it. And I think once somebody said to me, it's just as easy to get creative on a depression as it is a record.
Beautifully said. And what does that mean? How did that affect you when you got creative in depression?
Creative in depression is not a fun place to be
No.
because, as you said, you
go dark.
go dark and you're overthinking everything that could go wrong. And before you know it, you're waking up in the night. And then, as you said, you get the body symptoms. And I think they're the worst.
They are.
Once you get those body symptoms and you start believing, oh my God, I actually did knock on my neighbor's door one night. It was actually during the recording of my Bossa Nova album. I said, I'm just very anxious. I knew by then.
That was
I'm just
anxiety.
very anxious.
Ah.
Could I sit and have a tea with you? They were
Ah.
so sweet. They talked me down, Anna and Dave. But I think, when it snowballs like that and you really are convinced, like you said, you've got a brain tumor or you're going to have a heart attack, and you start to avoid parts of your life that would give you so much joy, then you're really in a dire loop.
Spiral.
Yeah.
Because then what you do is then the what ifs. Well, what if this is going to last a lifetime? What if there's really something wrong with me? And what if I'm not enough? What if I'm going crazy? And then the other thing that happens to some people, and I'm curious if it happened to you, is they get scary thoughts. Some of my clients that I've worked with, they're like, I'm scared I'm going to hurt someone. What if I took a knife to myself? Or, what if I jumped out of a window? Or what if I took my life? Some people get so anxious and then they go into the dark hole of depression. And then they think, oh my God, this is going to last a lifetime. No one's going to love me. Maybe there's really something wrong with me. Maybe it's me.
I mean, maybe there's something really wrong with me. That's when it gets really scary, right?
Yes.
I mean, luckily for me, usually good conversation and releasing that anxiety, communicating with someone, talking. Actually, that's why I started the podcast, because I was like, I'm too lonely up here. I've got to start talking to people. So I think that helps me a lot, community and feeling part of a tribe, a group.
Oh, and again, you said it so beautifully. We are talkers. Anxious people are talkers. And one of the best things you can do for yourself is find someone to talk to. So this podcast for you is a beautiful venue. And I mean, I personally, when I get anxious, because I still get anxious, I call a
You
girlfriend.
do? Really?
Oh,
After all this?
come on. I mean, as you know, I just went through the Malibu fires.
Yeah.
And you
In the middle
were
of writing your book.
in the middle. So I get this book deal. I mean, the whole book deal thing was such a gift from God, because I've written 4 books, and as you said so eloquently, and I really appreciate that, I created a program called Attacking Anxiety and Depression. I've sold over 1 million of them. I want to say that I sold the company because I was forced to do this when my husband passed away years ago, so I don't own it anymore. But you were lucky enough somewhere along the way to realize it was anxiety. For a lot of people, they don't put a name on it, and then they get depressed and they really think there's something wrong with them. And for me, I went through all of this. I wrote this beautiful book. I went on to coach people, but then I've been through so many tragedies in my life in the last 30 years, which is part of the reason I wanted to write this book. But then, I was hit by a truck walking across the street,
Oh my
and I was
God,
in a
dear God.
wheelchair. And I was robbed when I moved into Malibu. And as you know, last year during the fires, I was in the middle of the fires and my house was still standing, but it was destroyed. And I just have to say this. I don't know how I met you. I just know that you were an angel. And I just want to say this. I mean, you came into my life and you said, let's go bless your house. And Zoe, I will
Oh,
never forget that because when you're a
oh,
self-help guru like me,
yeah.
there aren't too many people that help you because everybody thinks you just said you go to therapy, you know. Yes, I have a therapist. Yes, I still get anxious because life is hard and people that you love die and you get diagnosed with things and your house is in a fire. And just when you think you got it all figured out, Zoe, you don't. And so you need these skills that I teach in the new book
Mm,
because life's tough and
mm.
shit happens. Can I cuss on this show?
Of course you
Great.
can.
Ah,
I just
so,
want to say that afternoon that we went to your house
oh my
and we
God.
called in the angels and
Yes,
we did a blessing
you
and
did.
everything else all around was burnt down
And I'm
except for
having
your house.
chills.
It really was actually one of my favorite moments after the
And
fires.
you were an angel from God. And I don't want to get emotional, but I will because
We
I had
cried
we
together.
cried together and you brought, God, what all did you bring? Feathers and food for the gods. And I mean, no one, it's so funny when you go through tragedy, and this is in my book. The new book is so raw and authentic and written in my current voice, and there's no bullshit, and it's so real and motivating. But for me, when I was going through the fires, people I thought would show up didn't.
Oh.
People I barely knew, and I talk about you in my book, did.
Oh.
I don't know where you came from. You came out of nowhere. You didn't know me. And you said, let's go do a blessing on your house. And why would she do this for me? She doesn't know me. And it's so hard. I had a beautiful home that I paid for with my hard work.
Hard
And I
work.
lost all my money when my husband took his life, and that's another story.
Mm.
And I'm sitting there watching my one investment, my retirement, in shambles and everything black around it. Yes, still standing, but full of, I want to say, negative energy.
That's what we were clearing that day, wasn't it? The negative energy. You say that your new book is raw, and I think that is really the power of you as an author. You are prepared to go there. I mean, you're prepared to tell us the darkest of the dark, which is such a generous thing to do, Lucinda, because it means when we hear you have been through it, we know we can get through it. I know one of the things you revealed in your book, you were 55 years old when you first revealed it, and you hadn't told anyone else about it, and that was that you were molested as a child for two
Ah,
years. Why
yeah.
why hadn't you told anyone up until that point?
I never talked about it publicly.
Okay.
This is the first time. I'm going to get emotional again.
Mm.
But,
Got tissues.
good. First of all, I was ashamed of it, right? And secondly, it was
Mm.
a really sick form of molestation.
Mm.
And this continued for a couple of years.
Mm.
And I didn't talk about a lot of things because, growing up back then, like when I was 30 and I actually started writing a book, you didn't talk about your dirty little things back in self-help books back then. They were fluffy, they were feel-good books, and you didn't talk about, ugly things. And I had a lot of ugly things, but the molestation really hung with me my whole life. At one point, I did tell my mother before
Mhm.
she died.
Mhm.
I said, "You really need to know what happened." And that didn't happen. I think you're imagining that. And I'm like, ah. And there's nothing worse than when
Mm.
you come forward with an ugly truth.
Mm.
I'm not a liar.
No, you're not a
And
liar.
somebody says, I don't believe you. Then
Well,
you're like, oh my God, I shouldn't have said anything. I didn't say anything until I told a therapist here in Malibu after my husband died what had happened. And I don't know. I think after my husband died, even that didn't want to talk about and say what really happened.
mm.
And it's all because, we're not supposed to tell our dirty little secrets,
Mm.
right?
We're supposed to have this perfect,
Yeah. And
perfect
especially
life.
if you're Lucinda Bassett,
Right.
best-selling author, and I became Lucinda Bassett in my 30s, and I was on Oprah and then
Mhm.
Cosmopolitan and
Mhm.
on The View. And like, if somebody thought I was sexually molested as a child, not only that, a lot of people were coming on and talking about being sexually molested.
Mhm.
And so I thought, I don't need to go there.
Mhm.
There were a lot of places I didn't think I needed to go, but I did. And
Mhm.
even my book, Truth Be Told, that's not the book I wanted to write. I wanted to call it Guilt, Blame, Anger, and Shame.
Wow.
And it was so powerful, the original book. and they took 100 pages of it out. And they're like,
It was so
we
raw.
don't want to talk about the trashy little truth. And I was like, okay, because I didn't know any better. This book, this new book,
Woohoo!
I said, either I'm going to tell the trashy little truth and I'm going to tell it from a raw truth throughout the whole book, or I'm not going to write it. It's going to be raw Lucinda Bassett at 69 years old telling my real story. And then lo and behold, I didn't even think they were going to let me do it. And then I tell the story in the book where I was sitting in a little restaurant in Italy and I had this universal moment from God. And I was sitting there with Murray and it's like this thing, this energy. And I know because this is what you do. And I'm sitting there and all of a sudden it's like, I'm sitting there with my fiance, Murray, and I said, I just had this feeling. And he said, what? And I said, I think I'm going to get a rewrite on my book From Panic to Power. And he said, what? And I said, no, I'm absolutely 100% sure it's going to happen. And he got up and he kissed me on the head, went to the restroom, and I picked up my phone and there was a message from my agent's assistant. Hey, HarperCollins wants to do a second edition of From Panic to Power. And I was like,
Woo!
God, I have so many woo stories in this book.
That's because
that will
you're
blow
tuned
your
in.
mind.
Well, listen, I want to say thank you. Thank you for telling those dirty little secrets, because I think in telling them, you're allowing others to speak out. You're allowing others to say, I can get over being molested. I can get over suicide. I can get over all these things. I think you're a force of nature. And I think the fact that you are courageous enough to just lay it all out there, and I'm really excited now about the new book. I think that's how you're helping so many people, because if you, as you said, Lucinda Bassett, beautiful apparition, coach to many, can get over these things, it gives us all hope. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I think, in other words, how are you going to tell somebody how to get over suicide of a
Yeah.
loved one, my husband, if you haven't actually been through it? How are you going to tell someone to get through a real panic attack unless you've done it? How are you going to tell someone how to go from losing all of your money and thinking you're going to go bankrupt to rebuilding your financial security unless you've done it?
Wow.
And I've done it. And how are you going to tell someone how to get through your house burning in a fire, being destroyed in a fire, unless you've done it? So I've walked through that dark tunnel. I've lost all my family members, Zoe, all my brothers and sisters. All three of my brothers died of alcoholism.
Wow.
My father died of
Wow.
alcoholism. I don't know if did you have someone in your family? with
My
addiction?
father was alcoholic, yes.
And unless
Wow.
you've been through your dad drinking Rolling Rocks in the morning and taking Valium and pushing the refrigerator over and threatening your mom with a gun.
Ugh.
And that's how I grew up. I didn't grow up. I always wonder what it must have been like to grow up like, I hate to say the Kennedys because they've had a lot of problems, but I'm just going to
Yeah.
say an East Coast family that had a house in the Hamptons. Everybody went to the best schools and the beautiful pictures and the money. And I know that comes with its own trauma. But I grew up in an alcoholic family that lived by the railroad tracks. My father would lay on the floor and fart and drink Rolling Rock and bring home loaded guns. And all my siblings, except for my sister who died of cancer, horrible cancer. Here I am, I have no siblings left.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Do you have, your beautiful
I am
sister?
so
I
close
know.
to my sister to
You're
watch
so
a
lucky.
loved one. My father actually, in the end, he got dementia and he forgot he drank.
Oh, well, that's
So
probably
that was a
good.
bit of a blessing. But I went through many years where it was very embarrassing. He would be so drunk, he would, be asleep on the street or asleep in the garden or all sorts of things he did. And in a little town in England, it's really embarrassing, because everything was swept under the rug at that point. I remember going to school and the kids would go, your father's a drunk. And, it just actually made me want to get the hell out of Dodge, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. So
And was he violent?
he was verbally abusive, and
That's just as
he
bad.
was a very big guy. So that was, it's very frightening to a kid.
How old were you?
Whatever it is, that energy of,
Oh,
sort of in the house going on. And I can't remember how old I was then, but I adored my father as well. I really idolized him. He was an artist. He was a poet. He was, but he had that devil, which was alcohol. So I totally get it.
I used to say when he was good, he was very good, but when he was bad, he was horrid. It's like the little girl with the curl in her head.
That's exactly my dad.
Yeah. I mean, my dad was an entertainer. He played guitar. He was charming. He was a very good looking guy, but when he drank, he was a monster.
Yeah, that was my dad as well. Yeah.
And my mother was a mouse. My mother would hide in the corner and she was really passive and she would say, "Stop it, stop it." And I thought, gee, who do I want to be like? Do I want to be the mouse in the corner or do I want to be the monster with his claws out? And so as I grew up, I wasn't sure which identity, and I was the youngest of five. And then I watched my three brothers all become alcoholics and die from alcoholism. And then and I don't know. I'm amazed that I landed in my 20s. I was in a rock and roll band.
Great.
Yeah, I
Me
did some
too.
modeling.
Yeah. Me
So we
too.
were without knowing it. Probably you didn't know you had anxiety either.
Mm,
I was using my anxious energy
mm.
creatively. I was out there because I all of a sudden I turned around and I was pretty and I sang and I
Your
wrote
opportunities.
poetry
Yeah.
and I modeled. I waited tables. I went to school. I did different things. I dated a lot of guys. I hitchhiked to Florida. Oh
Brilliant.
yeah, I did.
No, I
I
did
was
all that crazy stuff as well.
and I lived a really exciting life. And I finally met David through a
Mm.
friend, and I joined this rock and roll band, and I met David.
I was just reading about that. I'm so glad we're both rock singers. I think that's why we get each other
God,
a bit.
I'm sure. Did you play a guitar?
I did.
What'd you play?
A Strat.
I played a Fender Stratocaster.
Rock and roll women.
We were, and I love that. I would strut up on stage, but that's when I started really having these terrible anxiety
It's
attacks.
funny. Same time for me as well. I'd have those panic attacks.
Did you have irritable bowel syndrome?
I didn't get that.
Oh, I mean, something that we have to talk about is this. There's a lot of people get irritable bowel syndrome, which is like these episodes of diarrhea. And I would get these in a car. I would get these on stage.
Oh
I
no.
would go. I would travel around with a big bottle of Pepto-Bismol and drink it from the bottle. And so that controlled me. It controlled my life. That went on for years. And so I couldn't get on a boat. I couldn't ride with someone else in the car. I had to know my comings and goings, when I could leave. I couldn't get in an elevator. So the thing about anxiety is that it manifests in so many different ways for so many people. There's also this feeling people get where you feel detached from your body. Did you ever get
Mm.
that?
Once
Dissociation
or
disorder.
twice. Yeah, once or twice.
So that is something else we have to talk about. It's dissociation disorder, where you feel like all of a sudden you have brain fog and you feel like you're not there. And that can last for hours and days, and people think they're losing their minds.
Mm.
And the worst thing that often happens to people is they go off to the doctor, as you did, or the emergency room, and they're put on
Mhm.
antidepressants. And that's a slippery slope. They can be
Yeah.
very helpful, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
But now they're even putting people on antipsychotics, little bits of this and little bits of that. I don't really want to name things.
Wow.
And sometimes it's helpful, but sometimes they can make your symptoms worse and they can make your anxiety worse.
Yeah,
And there
that's
are,
what happened to me because they gave me meds and beta blockers or something they were called at the time because I was recording my first album and all sorts of stuff. I was a cocktail in the end. And
yes,
that is when, the best thing that happened to me, actually, talking about meds, was I got a coach at a certain point and she said, I don't think you need medication. I think you need a whole new lifestyle. And that's when my life started to turn around. I took on yoga, different things, better boundaries, the kind of things actually really you talk about in your book.
this new book, From Panic to Power, the old book, we knew so little about diet and how it affected, your
Mm,
gut biome and how that affects your mood. So what you put in your now we know.
mm,
We know that what you eat and what you put in your stomach affects your brain.
mm,
We just thought, oh, if you have a cup of coffee or you drink a Diet Coke, it's going to make you anxious because it's going to release chemicals that are stimulating. We all know that. If
mm,
you eat chocolate or you drink caffeine, don't do it. It's going to give you a panic attack. But now we know it's much bigger than that, that the food that you eat that lines your stomach and processes through your intestines can give you an anxious episode, can cause chemical release in your brain that can actually make you think in a
Well, I
way.
didn't even know this. What
Oh my
what kind of
God.
food are we talking? Or
So many different types of food, any kind of stimulants and any types. It's like there, you really need to be conscientious about the diet that you eat. Like you think, well, a little bit of sugar is not going to hurt me. And like, for example, all these fake sugars that people put in their coffee. If you want to have a bad morning, get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee or tea, and use, I don't want to name them, but fake sugars, okay? And then put a little sugar on your oatmeal, and
oh,
then go off and have an iced tea for lunch, and you will have an anxious day. So the best thing you can do is eat healthy food and proteins and watch the fats that you eat. But it's just the whole book now describes how to eat a healthy diet for breakfast, lunch, and
I
dinner,
love it.
and what to avoid,
Hmm.
whether it's what you drink, what you eat, the vitamins you take. There's so much information now. So people go online and start Googling about supplements. They think, well, I'm going to take omega 3s or I'm going to take B12 and they start, it's
Popping.
doing a cocktail of supplements. And before you know it, that's causing panic attacks. So people can be having an anxious episode taking the GLP-1s is another great example.
Hmm.
I mean, they're great. There's a reason for them. They were originally out there for diabetes, and now everybody's taking them for weight loss. But the problem with
Oh, these are
GLP-1s,
the Ozempics
yeah,
and
the
yeah.
Ozempics, and they're great and they're helpful. And
But are they kind of uppers? Do they?
different people have different side effects, and that's the important thing too. There's a test you can take called Genomind, which I
Mhm.
highly recommend. Get it from your doctor, and it tells you what medications might work for you in the form of an antidepressants, and what medications you probably shouldn't take because they might have a negative effect on you. What anti-anxiety medications you can take based on your genetics, what ones you probably shouldn't take.
Mm.
And that would be so helpful. Um, Morphine is something they put people on when they're dying. But I saw my sister go through cancer. This is just an example. And they put her on morphine and she was having scary dreams. And like psychotic episodes.
Wow.
She's not a good candidate. She wasn't. She died. I'm not a good candidate for morphine.
Mm.
So thank God I know that. I can
Mm.
should never be put on morphine.
No, ever
So,
since I had that terrible trip on whatever it was, we won't name it, this anti-anxiety, and ended up in Boston Hospital.
oh my
not,
God.
not even LA because I was on holiday. Um, I am terrified to take those kind of things. I'd rather go to lifestyle things, and
So there's so many things I want to talk about with you because you lead me into all of these great, down these
yeah.
yellow brick roads, which is also part of the new book. But here's the thing that's happening in this generation that's a little scary. The
Mm.
GLP-1s, they're really wonderful. And if you're someone who has diabetes
Right.
or serious weight problems,
Yeah.
which a lot of people don't, they're still taking them, or you want to they're good. And then a lot of people say, I've gone off, I'm not going to name people, but celebrities, I don't even have the desire to drink. For some people, they help. For some people, they don't. But you do lose weight and they do help control your appetite. But I've known people who take them and they get more depressed or they get more anxious.
Wow.
So what do? You have a good primary care doctor. Always start there. If you don't feel good about your primary care, get a different one. The other thing that I'm seeing is that a lot of people are titrating or taking small doses, microdosing mushrooms, ayahuasca, um, ketamine is a big
Wow.
one. You can go to these ketamine centers in LA and they're using ketamine to treat depression. The problem is some of our children are getting ketamine online and they're
Wow.
snorting ketamine. The problem is people are taking mushroom gummies or
Mm.
Molly gummies, and everybody's going, "Whoa, does she call it? She got my number." Well, a lot of people don't do well. I bet you wouldn't do well. Maybe you've done
No,
them.
I wouldn't do well. I
Oh
mean, my
my
dad was a
God.
drinker,
Yeah.
and I already know prescription anxiety drugs don't work for me. So I steer clear of that stuff. I think it's it's not good for my system's too sensitive.
You'd be surprised, or maybe not, how many of your friends your age and my age are doing mushroom gummies and Molly and ketamine and even cocaine. And I'm sitting over here going, I never did that stuff when I was 20, you know. And I have to say, I did with a friend that they were all doing these mushrooms. And so I was cooking a big Thanksgiving dinner. This was like 2 years ago. And someone said, just try chocolate. They're easily readily available, right?
That's a dangerous thing to do. Just
I
try
took
the
a
chocolate.
little tiny piece and I was making a turkey dinner from scratch for 24 people.
And you were like,
Oh my God. What it did, it was such a downer for me. And I want to talk about this because please be careful if you're out there and you're in your 50s, 60s, 40s, 70s, and you're doing mushrooms, you're doing ketamine, and you're titrating or you're taking microdoses.
yeah.
The problem is a lot of these people are getting it from dealers. I know that sounds hard to believe, but their friend next door has a party. Here's some gummy, and you don't know where they came from. And you don't know if there's not fentanyl in the ketamine. And I've seen people take ketamine that have had the worst reactions and
Right.
go into a hole. So I think the generation that we're living in now and the availability of all these
Everything's
fun,
possible. Yeah.
fun drugs, okay? And then I have people say, oh, well, I'm California sober. What does that mean? Well, I'm doing all these other drugs, but I'm not drinking. You really want to tell me that those drugs are okay for your brain? And so I'm not here to tell you not to drink and not to do drugs and not to do mushrooms. Do whatever you want to do, but do it wisely. Know what you're getting into. Know where you're getting it from. Know what your mind can tolerate. I like to say, I like to think that you and I, we know that we are very highly sensitive women.
Highly sensitive. Yeah.
We're emotionally
Intuitive, yeah.
sensitive. We're physically sensitive.
Empaths. Yeah.
I have to be careful about any kind of drug I take for any reason. I have to be, and that's why, well, what do you mean to take that? Even hormones. I can't take hormones.
You can't.
I don't take them now.
You know what? You're answering a lot of questions for me because my doctor did offer me something for weight because I gained some weight last year, and I thought, oh, I don't know, at me and anything. And also, I also had another doctor just tell me just a
Hormones.
day ago, go try hormone replacement.
Now, you might be someone who can take a GLP-1. The nice thing, again, I'm not telling you not to do any of this. Just get good advice. The number one most important thing you need is a good primary care doctor
Right. Yeah.
that really knows you and your
Yeah.
body. And I love that, I'm on my chart. So everything I do goes to UCLA, goes to my chart. They have all my records. That's the world we live in today. It doesn't mean you can't try a GLP-1. Now they're titrating GLP-1s with vitamin B12. And so you could take a really small dose and you might find you're going to lose weight and it's going to make you feel okay and you can tolerate it. So that's not a bad thing. Hormones,
Just don't be blind about it. Don't
just don't go in somewhere.
mean-
Now you're paying $1,200 for a GLP-1 and you're taking 5 milligrams. I mean, that's a high dose for someone like you, but maybe you can take 1/10 of that
Yeah.
and still get the benefit.
I mean, you talk about in your book about your father was probably self-medicating. I know my father was medicating with alcohol. He was probably, dealing with anxiety and depression. Do you think
Absolutely.
people are self-medicating with all these
Absolutely.
things? They're just like the easiest way. Let's pop some pills.
Yes, you're 100% on it. My dad was adopted. It's so funny because this is one funny story. I always thought I was Italian, and I'm now dating a Jewish guy. And he said, I'm going to do a 23andMe on you. And he did. And then he calls me, are you sitting down? I'm thinking, oh my God, my son Sammy must have got a card. Well, what's going on? And he said, you're not Italian at all. And I'm like, what? And he said, in fact, you are 38% Ashkenazi Jew.
Wow.
Do I look Jewish to you? And I said, no way. But my point is this. My father, who I always thought was Italian, was adopted. He never knew. Now I've got some information. He grew up in Chicago. He was 100% Jewish. He died thinking he was Italian. All my brothers and
Wow.
sisters thought they were part Italian, when in reality we're 38% Ashkenazi and whatever my mother is. And my point is this. My father self-medicated with alcohol because he was adopted and he had all kinds of issues around that adopted thing about feelings of abandonment.
Mhm.
And then he was raised by these German people from Ohio. How did that even happen? He was told he was left on a doorstep and
Oh
he
my
ended up
God.
drinking.
Yeah.
He went
Yeah.
in the war, saw all of his friends die. He
Oh
was a
my
gunner
God.
pilot.
Too much.
He came back from the war smoking cigarettes, drinking like a
Mm.
sieve, whatever, drinking like a maniac. And I grew up with the dad who was drinking Rolling Rock and taking Valium to self-medicate for
Mhm.
anxiety and depression.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the importance of a book like Panic to
Oh
Power,
my
because
God.
it gives you, if someone doesn't want to medicate and they want to take a more conscious journey, and they're sitting here and they're listening to this today, and they're suffering from very bad panic attacks and very bad anxiety, where can they start? Is it with group therapy? What helped you right at the beginning of your journey?
I go back to, again, go to your primary care doctor,
Hmm.
but we now have the ability to go online and go to my website,
Hmm.
lucindabassett.com, because I do coaching, I do group coaching, and I have this book coming out. But get help from someone that really understands anxiety, because by the way, anti-anxiety medication in a very small dose
Mm.
isn't a bad thing. We'll talk about benzodiazepine, so I don't name brands. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with an occasional half of a benzodiazepine. If you're taking it 3 times a day,
Mm.
that can lead to addiction. They're very
Mm.
addictive. Okay. There's also nothing wrong with antidepressants. If
Mm.
you're on a small dose of an antidepressant, but there are certain antidepressants that you may not be able to take. But your primary care can do this genome mind test and say, you know what, you're better on this type of
Hmm.
antidepressant. I don't want to name any, versus this type. You
Hmm.
might have taken one that gave you, some antidepressants make you more anxious.
Right.
Some antidepressants, a little bit of a certain one that I'm thinking
Yeah.
of, is really good for men in their 50s. It
Wow.
doesn't affect your sex drive. You don't
Mm.
gain weight. And some of these antidepressants will stop the obsessive thoughts. But
Mm.
what can you do for yourself right now? The first thing you can
Mm.
do is drink a lot of water, make sure you get plenty of sleep, make sure you stay away from caffeine in the form of chocolate, Coke,
Hmm.
iced tea, coffee. Don't drink it until you can calm yourself down. Then go to my book, go to my website, start doing breath work. You need to take a 10-minute time out every morning, during the day, and at night so that you can calm yourself down
I mean,
and
breath work is
r-
amazing, isn't it?
yes.
I was doing it this morning because I was having some weird dreams last night. It's probably because I was gonna. I was
Dude,
so
you're
excited to
interviewing
be. Yeah, I'm
me.
interviewing you. I'm
You were
like,
having
I'm anxious.
anticipatory
I
anxiety.
was, but I got up this morning and I thought, okay, what would Lucinda do? I went in and I did some breathing. I did some breathing and I just really calmed myself down. It was amazing. I felt fantastic. I went from, oh shit, am I really up for doing this, to, wow, this is going to be the greatest morning. And of course it is.
I
So it's
love that.
always, if you can just get over the
Yes.
hump, right? If you,
Yes.
those little tools.
And if you can see your anxious anticipation as excitement.
Right.
So it's like I tell the story in my book where, when I first started to ski, I was working with this ski instructor, and this woman that was with me was a little bit heavier, and she just had this big laugh and great energy. She would go down the hill and she'd go, woohoo! And I would go down the hill, tense and scared, and I'm going to break something. And I finally thought, God, she's having so much fun. I'm scared to death. So I got up there. I said, can I ride with you? She said, sure. And I said, I am going down that hill scared to death. And you are like so excited to go down the hill. She goes, because you're seeing your anticipation as fear, and I'm seeing it as excitement. And I'm like, oh my God.
Oh my God, that's the key, isn't
And
it?
that's what you did this morning.
Right.
And so you
And I
need to,
mean, look, imagine if I had to talk myself out of this, which is
yes.
probably one of the most amazing mornings ever. And that's, rereading, because I was rereading Panic to Power. And I started to think, how many things
Mm,
am I avoiding
mm,
because it gives me anxiety? I did start
yes.
horse riding again at the beginning of the year, but I've stopped because I started to get slightly anxious. Maybe I'll fall off. Maybe I'll.
Great something.
how many
Ah, I
things
love
are
this.
we
How
avoiding?
many vacations have you canceled out on? How many dates have you canceled? How many trips have you ruined? How many adventures have you missed out on because you were scared, because you had the what ifs, because you were afraid you could hurt yourself or it wouldn't work out, or maybe you didn't have the energy, or maybe you weren't pretty enough, or maybe you're not smart enough, or maybe you'd make a fool of yourself. All the what ifs. So, how many adventures did you miss out on? Mornings would you not have done because you were scared, because you thought maybe I'm not enough, because you are enough. I mean, I'm enough. You're enough. You're
Yeah.
enough. Everybody's enough. And it's when you don't take the chances
Mm.
and you don't take the risks. Leap and the net will appear. Trust that you have everything you need every day to be the best you can be. And
Oh,
just
that's
as you
wonderful.
are, Zoe, I mean, I have been with you. You,
Baba!
baby, you came to my home in Malibu and you didn't even know me. And you brought all those blessings. And after you came, I set a new intention for my
Mm.
beautiful home because of you. And I
Oh,
thought, this home, I'm going to rebuild my home and I'm going to bring my breath retreats back and I'm going to do
woohoo!
them in
I
my
want to be
home and I'm
part.
going to have you there with me
Oh, yeah, I'd love to
because you're
do that.
supposed to
And I
be a
love the
sister with me.
yes.
But it's because of you I got pictures of my husband out and my mother and my brother Gary and all these people. And God, I have so many stories to tell you, but I am such a big believer in connecting with people who have passed. And so
The
if you have
ancestors, yeah.
if you have like I got pictures of my husband out and put them on the mantle and my mother who passed and my brother Gary who was the alcoholic. And I have to tell you, I have prayed to my dad who was an alcoholic and my brother Gary to help me heal a friend in my a friend of mine who has addiction issues.
Mm.
And they say, you want help with a friend with addiction, or if you have children with addiction issues, pray to a family member that had addiction issues.
Mm.
You need help with someone you know going through cancer, pray to your family member that died of cancer.
Oh.
You have, in other words, reach up to the angels in your life when you're big on angels who
Mm.
had the problem that you're trying to help someone else
Mm.
overcome.
Mm.
And so I reached out to the people in my life, put their pictures around the house after you left,
Oh.
and I said, help me heal my home. And I went home and I wrote down my intentions. And Zoe, my new book is all about setting your intentions and then writing affirmations. And I tell you how to do this at the end of every chapter for that specific
I
topic of the
love it.
chapter. So it's a really beautiful book with a lot of powerful content and my personal stories. But at the end of every chapter, we set intentions for that chapter's subject. And then I write the affirmations for you and then journal prompts for journaling for yourself. So not only do you get all this motivation from this new book and real help that's like, oh my God, you close the book and go, I can use this today. And breath work. I do a whole chapter on breath work. And then you scan the code in the book and it takes you to my website and the whole breathwork session is there from the
Oh,
book so that you
beautiful.
can do this 10-minute
Wow.
self breathing session and it will calm you down because breath work, it's not what it used to be.
Mm.
I did ayahuasca and I'm
Mm.
talking about, things that make you,
Mm.
have a different out of body experience. Did you ever do ayahuasca?
I haven't.
You did. Okay. Woo! You did. Okay. So I was asked to speak at an ayahuasca resort by
Wow.
a friend.
Mhm.
And I went there and he said to me, well, you need to do the ayahuasca at Lou. And I said, I'm not doing that shit. I can't take that kind of
Wow.
thing. I've never tripped in my life and I don't want to do it. This was 5 or 6 years ago.
I'm getting anxious just thinking
Well,
about
then I
it.
went back and I did it. And my first trip was so freaking scary. And then I ended up doing 3 more. But at the end of it all, it was life changing. And we can go into that if you want to. But anyway, one of the most important things I got out of it for anybody who's religious,
Mm.
because now I was doing, I had done some breath work and I'm thinking, what is God and what is Jesus Christ? Now, all of a sudden, well, do Jews don't believe in Jesus Christ? Was he a man? Was he really the Son of God?
This was all on the
Oh,
ayahuasca trip.
yeah, I'm having this. And all of a sudden I had this thing, I have to tell you, that came to me during the ayahuasca, and it said all these entities are one entity. Whether you're Jewish or you're Christian or you believe
That's
in God.
beautiful.
And it was
That's
beautiful.
beautiful.
And it's the energy, and it's I keep looking up, which is my last
The
chapter.
source.
The
The
source.
source.
Thank you.
The source. Are you a big, what do you believe in?
I believe in God.
You believe in
And I
God.
believe that God is a universal energy and that everyone has that energy of God in them. And I believe that you need to pray to God. I believe you need to get down on your knees and put your hands together and put your hands in the air and feel the energy of God. And when I did the ayahuasca, this thing came to me, and it said, all the entities are one entity, and that is God. And then after I did the ayahuasca,
Wow.
someone came
That's
to me and
beautiful.
it was
That was worth the trip.
it was worth the trip, because all of a sudden I had an answer. It's God. It's just God. God is God. God is in you, and God is in me, and God is around us, and God is worth praying to, and God is worth giving thanks to,
and giving our problems to.
and giving it up to God. And keep the last chapter in the book is keep looking up, keep looking up. I could tell you so many God stories where I looked up and said, please, ask for an answer and then watch for it.
It is
Be
amazing, isn't it?
specific.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was dealing with someone yesterday who was having a terrible anxiety attack, and I said to them, do you pray? Do you pray? Maybe it's time to pray and give it to God.
And I had a client that said to me, I don't believe in God. Can you still help me?
What did you say?
I said I could, but I said, I think you need to rethink that. And you know what? Part of my journey here is to talk about God. That's part of my journey. I talk about God in my book. I talk about God in my sessions. I don't believe in God. That's your choice. I do. And I think it would help you to have something bigger than you to believe in, something to give that fear to, something to know something's got your back, and it's God. And oh God,
I mean,
in my book, it's like, I want to get my book, because there's one of the quotes, and I don't have it right in front of me, but it's like, even for disbelievers, from every tuft of grass and every leaf, there it is, proof that there's God. How can you not believe when you see a woman carrying a baby and deliver a baby out of a body? How can you not? But no one's ever really explained that there's not a God. How do you explain the earth? How do you explain love? How do you explain what you feel when someone puts their arms around you and embraces you and looks you in the
and
eye?
all the connections, all the people we experience. I mean, for me, this is a godly morning.
It is.
I mean, hearing you talk, I mean, you're such an amazing woman, amazing human being. I mean, so how
Feeling
can
is
we?
mutual, baby.
Oh, thank you.
Because when my sister died of cancer, I was in the plane, and it was terrible turbulence. I hate turbulence. My son Sammy was a baby.
Me too. I grabbed the person
Oh,
next to
I
them,
hate it. Yeah.
whether I know them or not.
Hi,
They're looking at me.
my name's Lucinda. Oh
Me
God.
too. I grab so many hands on planes, and they're like looking at me like, who are you?
I don't do that, but I I grab the seat. But I have to tell you, God, there's so many stories. But when I was in a very turbulent flight, my sister had died, and I had just left her, and I was flying back for the funeral. And I said to God, she was there for me. She was my person. Now no one's going to be there for me. And God said back to me, you are all here for each other. Everybody's here for you. And you're here for them. And it's like this whole thing opened up. And I thought, oh my God, if we would just open our hearts and open our minds and reach out. We
And
are
trust,
all here
and trust, right.
Because be real, be authentic, ask for help when you need it. Let people be there for you, even when you're someone who's there for everybody else, because we are all here for each other. And that is the message of the earth and the planet that we're on now. And, that's why everyone is so anxious right now. We're in such, a chaotic space in the world.
Mm,
And we're so exposed by turning on the TV and
mm,
social media,
mhm.
and we don't know who to believe. We don't know who to trust. I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, or you live in China, or you live, in Iran. Nobody knows who to trust.
I mean, we're also very isolated, aren't we?
Oh
In a
my
way,
God,
because you know we're on our phones, we're on social media. I think all that is very anxious making.
it is. I mean, I know I myself sit upstairs at night and start scrolling through Facebook or YouTube, and then you go on YouTube and you don't know, if David Muir really said that, or whoever said this, or if it's AI that really said that he said that. You don't even know what to believe anymore. You got President Trump on AI dancing in his underwear with,
Oh God!
Putin. I mean, and you're
I mean,
like,
it's insane.
did that really happen?
It's also this crazy popularity contest.
It
Like,
it
did
is.
my photo get 100 likes? It didn't. I must be
Oh.
nobody.
Oh, right,
I
exactly,
mean,
it's
it's
awful.
just so.
Hey, look at me. I have a book that's coming out with HarperCollins, and where it used to be, and I almost didn't wanna write it, I said to my agent, and it's in the book, who am I to write this book? There are so many people on Facebook and YouTube, and they're all gurus. They all know everything there is to know about anxiety. They
Mm,
all think they're experts. And she said, yes, but some of them are false prophets,
mm.
Lucinda. And you've been doing this for 30
You've
years.
been really doing the
You're the
work
real deal.
with people.
And I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor, and that's the first thing I say.
Yeah, but you know a hell of a lot about
I
anxiety and
do.
depression.
Yes,
Read
and
the book.
trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been through it and I'm still going through it. As you know, the fires, I'm still not living in my house.
You're still not living in your
I'm not
house.
living in my house.
Oh.
And I mean, I'm working on it now, but it has been from the moment I started writing this new book, I
Mm.
was fighting with everyone, the city, insurance companies, blah, 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 blah. And
And you're trying to write a book. So
and
it's
I'm
almost
trying to
like
write a book.
trying to birth a baby in the middle of pure chaos.
Exactly. And I did it. But I have to say
And I know
again,
your home, an artist's home it's very important for the creative process, isn't it? Because it makes us feel safe enough to sort of vomit up all that stuff.
I talking about my book about a safe place to land. And that is also one of the partial chapters in my book because there's a song that oh gosh, Sarah Bareilles does with John Legend called "A Safe Place to Land."
Oh,
You should listen to it. It's
oh.
beautiful. It is just and it's about people coming over on the boats trying to come to America and it's heartbreaking, but it's a beautiful song. And I thought, oh my God, a safe place to land. That's what everybody's looking for. Who can I go to and tell them I'm scared? Who can I go to and tell them that I'm worried about my finances?
Mm,
Who can I go to and tell them that I'm worried that my daughter's son is an addict? Who
mhm,
can I go to and tell them that maybe I drink too much that's not
mm,
going to judge me? Who can I tell that maybe my husband and I are having problems? Or who can I go and tell them that maybe I think maybe I'm gay? I've had a
mhm,
lot of that, like
mhm,
maybe my sexual, but you can go to the people that you trust. Go to somebody
mhm,
because we all need somebody and keep looking up. Go to God. Go to God and ask a question and ask for an answer and ask for a sign,
mm.
Zoe, and then be specific.
I love asking. That's a great reminder to ask for a sign,
And
right?
then watch for it. And when it
It's so
comes,
beautiful, isn't it?
oh my
I
God,
prayed for something very, very strongly a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, and sure enough, it came.
tell me about it.
I just got so desperate, and I just lay in bed one night, and I just like prayed and prayed, and I prayed to my ancestors, and I prayed to the angels, and I said, please, please make this happen, make a shift,
And it shifted.
and it shifted. Yeah,
Can I tell you a beautiful story?
yeah,
During the fires, I was scattered.
mm,
You get scattered when you're stressed out and anxious.
yeah,
And I have this little red Chanel wallet, and I keep credit cards in it, not
mm,
much. But I was going to go shopping and I was going to buy some things for the house. And I put my ID in there and some credit cards and a couple $100 bills. My friend Tammy came to help me and I was running all over the place. And that night I went to get my wallet and I opened up my purse and the wallet was gone.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my God, I lost my wallet. I canceled all my cards. I canceled my bank
Oh no.
card. And that I came back that day exhausted, and Tammy was with me, and I looked all through my car, and I said, and I shut the car door. I said, one thing I loved about my mom is she used to find everything I lost. And I stood there and I looked up at the sky and I said, Mom, I really need to know you're up there. And I really need to know you're hearing me. Help me find my wallet. And you're never going to believe this. That night I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Facebook and I have Facebook messages. I
Mm.
never look at those. I thought, who is messaging me on Facebook? I never look at them. I looked at them and said, hey, Lucinda, you don't know me. I live in Malibu. I found your wallet a couple days ago and I left it at this restaurant and it had all this
Wow.
cash in it. And I'm like, my mom found my wallet. I
Mm.
called the restaurant the next day, drove down there. There was my wallet, all the cash, all the credit cards. I asked my mother to help me find my wallet, and
Mm.
she did. And so if you ask God or the universe or your angels, and if it might take a day, it might take a week, but what it really needs more than anything is your 100% intention. And that's where intentions set
Oh,
an
I love that.
intention and
Mm.
then create affirmations. I will find a financial solution. I will find my wallet. Everything, one of my favorite affirmations right now, everything's going to be okay.
I like
It's
it.
going to work
Everything's
out.
gonna be okay.
And you could say, but sometimes things aren't okay. Sometimes things don't work out. Well, when my sister died and I was talking to a minister and I said, sometimes things don't work out. Sometimes people die and it's not okay. And he goes, Lucinda, even when you die, it's okay. It'll work
Wow,
out.
that
And I
peace.
was like, because there is a God and your soul goes on.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, that's humbling.
Mm. The soul goes on.
The soul goes on, you never die. And so, what does that bring us to? The
Mm.
peace, it brings us to, I'm trying to tell you,
Mm.
it's like the Wizard of Oz, the narrative of the Wizard of Oz, which is what I hope where we go with the book, is that you already have the beauty, the strength, the creativity, the peace, the confidence, the safe place to land. It's all right here. It's right there. And it's in your heart chakra. It's in your core and it's God energy. You have it, I have it, everybody listening has it, and you just have to know that you have it and trust that that energy is in your palms, it's in your chakras, it's in your heart. If you can't find it, go to my website, go to my book.
Ah, yeah,
But I'm
I love
serious, and
it.
I don't mean that the way that it sounds. I'm
Mm.
saying go to the internet, but be sure you're safe where you're going.
Mm.
Go to Mel Robbins. I love Mel
Mm.
Robbins.
Mm.
There are so many great self-help people out there, right? I love these new
Mm.
mediums. John,
Mm.
who's the latest
No,
one?
but I mean, I laugh, but I actually think it's a great idea to go to
I
your
think
website
I think
because it is really full of great information.
it's gonna get a lot better because now I've got this book coming out, so I need my website. I let it go, and it's kind of outdated. But the thing is, I'm still there in coaching. And I'm not selling me. I'm saying the beauty of the times we live in is that you can Google anxiety. You can
Mhm.
Google someone who specializes in finances. You can Google someone who specializes in breath work. There's an organization called Transformational Breath. I studied for 2 years. What I was going to tell you is after I did the ayahuasca, I went and did the breath session, and they guided me to end up doing breath work.
Breath work is really amazing, isn't it?
Oh,
For releasing energy from the nervous system, for releasing all that stored up, stress in the nervous system and that trauma. I love breath work. I just did some um, with a Native American woman that was really beautiful, very powerful.
and there's different types of breath work, and there's self breathing, and then there's breathing with an expert, which is what I do, which is hands on. It's physical, emotional, and spiritual. But if you do that really heavy breathing breath work, where you engage, it takes an hour. You need to work with a professional. But I want to talk for just a minute about one of the most traumatic things I went through that I didn't talk about when it happened, and that was my husband's suicide.
Yes, that I can't even imagine the pain, the anguish, the
It's like we're coming up to the anniversary of David's death, and I'll be okay. Um, in my book, Truth Be Told, I wanted to talk about his suicide, and I really wanted to do a book about suicide, but they wouldn't let me. And I said, look, I have this idea about a book about suicide because so many people have experienced it or, think about doing it. And I think I have a really good book in my heart about suicide. And they ended up wanting me to write my life story, and then it became Truth Be Told, and it isn't the true story
mm-hmm,
because I protected the guilty.
mm-hmm,
And you have to be careful when you write a book, right?
mm-hmm.
But I think that suicide is such a scary, taboo topic.
It's so taboo.
And it really is. And unfortunately, when you are the one left behind, people immediately, like, you don't even want to, people would say to me, how'd your husband die? And I'd say heart related. I was too ashamed to say suicide because then when you do say suicide, what did you do? What did you didn't do? What must have been your fault?
Oh my
No, it's not your
gosh.
fault. They were struggling. They might have been struggling with depression. Maybe they were on the cocktail of medications that you talked about,
Mm-hmm,
which my husband was on.
mm-hmm,
And that's the thing that's scary. Our mental health system is broken.
mm,
And you put your poor person who's struggling with mental illness in a hospital,
mm.
and they end up on all kinds of a cocktail of medications. And some of them, my husband took his life because he was on those medications. If he weren't on those medications, Zoe, he would be alive today. And I went to the psychiatrist the night before he killed himself. And I said, take him off all of these medications and put him on this one. His grandfather was in a mental institution. They don't do that anymore. But he went on this one medication, and it saved him. And the psychiatrist leaned into my husband that night and said, David, are you going to kill yourself? And I said, he wouldn't tell you that right now. And David said, no. And the next morning he took his life. And I'll
Oh my
never
gosh.
forget that. I wish I would have had the guts to come out and talk about it then.
Mm.
I didn't. I wish I would have the guts to come out and talk about the people who really made David so anxious and worried about money that he ended up taking his life. I didn't have the guts to talk about it. And
Is that what you believe happened? There were
oh, I
people
know what
pushing him
happened.
so
Yes,
hard.
I heard it. They called him the night before he took his life, and they were really sarcastic and threatening. And the next morning, he took his life.
He couldn't take it
It was
anymore.
he couldn't take it anymore. He thought there were people after him and that things were going to happen. And I didn't find out any of this until after he died, and
Mm,
none of it was even really real. But the people that he was scared could take our business,
mm,
that was real.
mm-hmm,
And the people that were saying things to him that were scary
mm-hmm,
that I didn't know about, that was all real.
mm-hmm.
And I wish I would have come forward and told all that because you were in business with people, and they you don't know if you can trust them anymore. I mean, 2007 was a very bad time in the world. And
Mm.
right now it's a scary time in the world.
Yeah,
And
people are really going through it.
people are going through it, and then even if you're in a relationship with someone and you worry, I mean, listen, money is one of the number one reasons people break up in
Mm-hmm.
relationships. It's one of the number one reasons people take their lives. It's
Wow.
one of the number one reasons people get mentally challenged. Nothing, and you want to say, oh, especially men. No, women too. We have to survive.
Yeah.
We have to pay our bills.
Yeah.
And it's so money is, and then people say, oh, we don't need money. Yes, you do. Money pays bills. It pays your car insurance, takes care of health care,
Yeah.
buys you food,
Yeah.
pays your rent. You need money.
Yeah.
And when you're afraid you're going to lose money, it's so anxiety
Yeah.
producing. And money and health issues.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible for me. And I talk on one of the most, depressing, defeating, you know, uh, problems I still struggle with is fear of being alone. That's another big one.
Mm.
Fear of being alone. I make bad decisions because of fear of being alone. I make bad decisions because of, you know, fear of being abandoned. Well, what if he leaves me? What if they're not my life anymore? What if I end up by myself? What if I'm not enough? What if I can't take care of myself? What? I'm Lucinda Bassett. I can take
Wow,
care of
yes.
myself, but I still have it too. We all have it. And I think it's really helpful for people to hear that I still have that. I didn't expect my house to be in a fire and be worth half of what it's worth now. I thought I made good decisions. Hey, life has a way
Mm.
of kicking you in the stomach. You
Mm.
can't be sure you're 100% safe ever because shit happens, Zoe. And so, what can you do? You have to stay grounded. You have to pray. You have to believe in a higher power. You have to have really good friends, really, really good girlfriends,
Mm.
good guy friends.
Mm.
I believe it's great to be in groups of friends.
Mhm.
Like if you're someone who has a problem with drinking right now and you don't want to go to AAA, maybe join a church group where you can go and just, I think it's so important, Zoe, to
To
be
have a feeling of community,
you
right?
have a feeling
Yeah.
of community and be authentic.
Yeah.
Be able to be yourself
Yeah.
and tell someone you're scared. Tell someone you're worried. Have someone you could call at 11 o'clock at night and say, I'm really worried about money right now.
Yeah.
I'm really worried that my house might not come back. I'm really worried that I'm having scary thoughts of doing something. I'm afraid my husband's going to leave me. I'm afraid I'm not sexual anymore. I'm afraid I'm not attractive anymore. I'm afraid I got left out of this girls group. I mean, God, the way we think, right?
Yeah. But I mean, in my experience also of anxiety, as soon as I have that conversation with someone who I'm
That you
authentically,
trust
yeah, who I trust and I feel safe with, it really helps the anxiety evaporate. It's
so
one of the
much.
most powerful ways, I think, you know. It's funny how we all do, carry these big burdens, these fears on our shoulders, and we don't do what human beings need to do and just talk about it and and get some support. It's strange, isn't it?
It is strange. And it's the beautiful thing is I know you have a sister because I love your sister. I used to call my sister 2 or 3 times a day.
Mm.
She's gone. And then my brother Gary, who's the last to go, he's gone. And so now I have a good friend I can call. You don't need 9,000 friends, but if you have a couple that
Yeah.
you really trust that you can reach out to on the phone, because what people are doing now that you mentioned earlier, instead of reaching out, they're going on social media.
Social media,
And
yeah.
AI is
To
scary.
see what everybody else is doing
Or
rather than having a real conversation.
they're talking to a bot and saying, and this, it can be useful, don't get me wrong, but like there are these bots now, and you go on and say, hey, Susan, I'm feeling this, and this. What do I do? And Susan says, hi, Harry, you've had a rough day today. I strongly suggest, and then Harry's thinking, oh, I have a relationship with Susan. And that's what people who understand this business right now of AI are a little concerned about. It's like teenagers are going to social media.
These bots, I didn't know about these bots,
It's
but
a
they
little
sound
scary. I mean, at some point they're going to find a use for it. They're finding uses for it now. But the thing is, be a little leery and keep your eye on your 13-year-old and your 17-year-old and
mm,
how much time they're spending on AI and on social media and on YouTube and Instagram. And they see all their friends, with great boyfriends, trips to Europe, and they're
right.
thinking,
And
I'm not enough.
I'm just like, what am I, the biggest loser? Because
Exactly.
everybody on Instagram looks like they're living the best
And
life.
they're not. And I live in Malibu, and I know a lot of very wealthy, successful people, and some of them are very happy and doing great, and some of them aren't. I'm not saying people with money have problems. Everybody has problems. People
Right.
without money have problems. We all have problems, but it helps so much to have a support group and a
Yeah,
support
support group.
system.
Do you actively run support groups in
You know,
Malibu at this point, or
I do my coaching online, and then
Mm,
I was doing Zoom groups
groups?
for free all
Wow.
during COVID.
Wow.
And I would love to start doing that again. So
Or maybe
once
even an in-person group would be
I would
amazing.
love to do that in Malibu, but see, I have that feeling too. Nobody needs me in Malibu. Everybody's already got all these people we could name doing groups and doing this. But then I thought, When
No, I don't think that's true. Where is there a real support group?
I don't know, but there's like, see, and this is me. It's like, well, I'm in a book club and I play Mahjong, and I'm like, nobody's invited me to be in a book club or play Mahjong. But then I think, what I'd love to do, Zoe, is I would love to have a group of just a group for women where we
Right.
go to each other's house and we just talk about this kind of stuff with
Everything
each
that we're
other.
going through and
Yeah,
find solutions and
right.
be supportive towards each other.
I would love to do that, and also,
Sit in circle,
yeah,
circle up,
wouldn't that be great? And we could do
have a
some
little
breath
cacao.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I would love that as
okay,
well.
let's do it.
Let's do
Let's do
it.
a
Let's
group.
organize it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to do is I was doing free Zoom support during COVID for the world, for the country, and I was really surprised how many people came on. And I want to start doing that again once I'm home and my life has calmed down,
Right.
because I've had a really rough year with my house in a fire and writing a book, and then I got diagnosed with osteoporosis, and
Wow.
I'm
Oh,
fine. But I mean, and then a couple people that I know were really sick, and so my year just this is a tough year for me.
last year was like, that was ground zero
It
all the way
was,
around.
yeah.
It was, by the end of the year, I was so exhausted. I ended up doing yoga online, yin yoga, for a month because I thought I'm not going to make it to the end of the
See, and I
year.
didn't know that about you. I look at you and I think, God, she's so beautiful and she's got such a perfect life, and she's doing these podcasts, and
No.
everybody loves Zoe, and
Oh, you're
right?
so sweet.
But what a
Why
beautiful
do why do
example.
we yeah, why are we always projecting that everybody else has no, the end of the year was really rough for me. I was like, wow.
I think the interesting thing about that is I have been through the Malibu fire and I'm still not living in my house. And then I went through the financial stress of being in the Malibu
Yeah.
fire, not getting the coverage I wanted initially, and then living elsewhere and renting, and then my dog, my beautiful cat died, my dog died.
Oh
I
no.
had friends get sick. And I thought, well, maybe I'm the only one that had a bad year. I knew all the people that went through
No.
the fire. But now I'm finding out people all over the world are saying that this was a
Mm,
bad year. The year of the
mm.
snake, I think. And now this is the year of the horse, whether that matters or not. But I'm saying, I think a lot of people had a bad year last year.
I know people who uh, amazing talents but went through really rough years. So excited about the new book. Let's have a great book launch party for you here or something, and
I would love to do
let's
that.
all celebrate,
Yes, yes.
celebrate.
I just want to say very quickly that it is a second edition of my book From Panic to Power that came out 30 years ago, and this one will be coming out January of next year,
Oh
2027.
my
So
gosh.
I'll be, promoting it, but it is a gift from God that I get to do this book. This is the first time I've talked about the book.
Wow, I am so, oh my goodness, I
Yeah.
am so
So,
honored that you would sit down and talk with me. You are a gift from God. I'm
and
just
you
so
as well,
I am so grateful. I hope we're going to have lots more fun times
together.
together. Thank you for blessing my cabana.
Oh,
I
thank
think
you.
the energy is shifting.
Uh,
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
let's keep rocking and rolling.
Let's do it. Onward.
Onwards.
And don't panic.
Don't panic. Yeah, right. Don't panic.